there, the Reverend Robert Jones. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I've enjoyed having these talks with all our great teaching artists here at Midwest Uke Camp, and of course, us in Michigan, Robert. We've known you and known about you for quite a while. You've been such a fixture here in the Michigan folk scene, as well as the Midwest, the country, Canada, Europe. You've been all over the place. And it's hard to even start with all the stuff you've done and where you've been. But I think this quote from Bob Talbert, who was a great columnist for the Detroit Free Press, who loved to read every week. Here he says about you, the world's most highly educated blues musician, ordained Baptist minister, DJ, living encyclopedia of blues history, and you're comfortable among juke joint talkers, fancy hatted church ladies, and PhDs alike. Wow, that's quite something to live up to there, man.
Bob was very generous, but it's like for the most part, I think you try to find connections with people. I
Yeah,
mean, to me,
sure.
that's been the nature of my career, my outreach, my vision is to just sort of create connections between people that they didn't know they had. So those juke joint talkers and those church ladies and those PhDs, they're all human, and that's the thing that ties us together. So it was a very
Yeah,
nice quote from Bob, the
that's a
late
great quote.
Bob. Yeah.
The late, great Bob Telbert. So, while we're excited to have you at camp. This will be your first time down to our camp in Toledo,
Mhm.
and you're going to just be part of a great group of teaching artists we have there. And I'd like the people to get to know a little bit about what you'll be teaching. Uh, we've got quite an interesting list here. I'm looking here right at we got the music of Washington Phillips, advanced blues finger picking, gospel ukulele, and country blues harmonica.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of us, certainly know you as a guitar player and a harmonica player. And when did you get into the ukulele?
Well, strangely enough, I was doing a camp. I was teaching at a camp, um, and a place called Pine Woods, and it was very much a situation where I like to take something, I like to learn something, at the same time I'm teaching something, and everything I wanted to take was either conflicting with what I was teaching or or it's just was full. So
Sure.
the last thing on the list, I must admit, was an introduction to ukulele. And so I kind of like, walked in the class with not much expectation. And the instructor, very nice young lady, name has popped out of my brain, but I think I can go back and find it. But a very solid teacher in the Massachusetts area had this basket full of ukuleles and handed them out, and I picked up one, and immediately as she was explaining it, the light bulb came on that what I do on a guitar in the key of G was immediately transposable to a ukulele in the key of C.
Right.
And so not only did I sort of like my left hand started finding these notes and finding the scales, but right-handed, I started finger picking, just, instinctively. The whole idea of just sort of creating rhythm with your index finger just didn't occur to me. And she was looking at me kind of like, no, you're supposed to go like this. I'm like, no, I don't want to go like this. I want to go like this. And so, picked it up, immediately came home, bought an inexpensive ukulele, and, worked out a few things. What really impressed me though was that this instrument was in the same sonic area of this homemade instrument that Washington Phillips played called the manzarine. The manzarine was almost like a zither or two zithers
Huh.
glued together, but very delicate sounding, kind of on the treble end of the scale. And it took him apparently, from what I understand, a half an hour to tune it. And but what I got out of it was when I played the ukulele. When I played his music on the ukulele, it just sounded perfect and authentic.
Yeah.
And then, I kind of dabbled with it a little bit, and then hits the pandemic, and you got nothing to do but just like woodshed and learn and start, getting into this music. That's when I kind of realized that this instrument was a lot more versatile than I ever thought it was,
Yep.
and that it has a voice somewhere between African instruments like the ngune, but also kind of the piano, and then of course this manzarine thing, and started to really get into it. I went to TrueFire.com. I'm a TrueFire instructor,
Right. Yeah.
and I said I'd like to do a package on blues explorations of blues ukulele, and they said great. So then I started, can you play Robert Johnson on an ukulele? Yes. Can you play Reverend Gary Davis on an ukulele? Yes. Can you play 44 Blues by Roosevelt Sykes on a ukulele? Yeah. And so before I knew it, it's like, man, what a wonderful, versatile instrument that I think people think of in only a limited way. But if you
Absolutely.
allow yourself to like explore its possibilities, it's pretty amazing instrument that cuts, through instruments that are much bigger, but it just has a unique voice. So that's
Well, yeah, I think you're right. A lot of people kind of, pigeonhole the ukulele. Oh, it's either all Hawaiian music or it's just happy, fun, novelty kind of stuff. And not that anything's wrong with any of that, of course. But to me, there's something sophisticated in the simplicity of the ukulele. There's so many things you can do with those four strings, and it's so accessible. And you just have to play around with it and explore some different styles and different techniques and really find out everything that little ukulele has to offer.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Read somewhere that I think Jimi Hendrix started with a broken ukulele that he found
Yeah.
in garbage or something, right? So the idea is that it is a very personable and a very personal instrument. You don't have to plug it in. You don't have to blast your neighbors out. You don't, you can literally kind of use this instrument to express your inner feelings, your inner musician, your inner composer. And also like the idea that, although we assign it to different cultural traditions, it's really very much a roots instrument. It's like even the fact that it's like a nylon string instrument. It's
Right.
so it has that voice that sometimes you'll hear a really good ukulele player, and you kind of go, "What's that? What's that instrument? Oh, that's a ukulele." You know,
Right, right, right,
so
right.
it's very cool. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I think it's interesting how you've explored the basically unlimited boundaries of the ukulele with your blues finger picking. Like you said, some like Mississippi John Hurt, John Lee Hooker kind of stuff, um, and the gospel ukulele.
yeah.
Uh, I can just hear that right now, just talking about it. how so many of those songs with the backing of an ukulele gives you that foundation to really support all the great gospel singing in those songs.
Absolutely. The idea that, you've got this voice and in a in the old days they used they used to describe a piece as being unaccompanied or accompanied by something, right? And so the idea is that your ukulele is the other voice. You're
Right.
singing and it's singing with you, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you get a more complex or bigger sounding instrument, it can get in the way of whatever the expression is. I mean, I figured out a great tune that was written by Phil Oakes called Pleasures of the Harbor. And it
Hmm.
on the ukulele, it sounds gorgeous
Yeah.
because it's just, you can kind of feel the rolling of the waves, but you have this real personal sounding approach to
Yeah.
the thing. So part of my mission is to say I love Hawaiian music and I love the people who do amazing things and I love the traditions of folks like Roy Smeck and ukulele Ike and all those cats.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But on the other hand, it's really a wonderful instrument that you can express yourself with. And I recently heard a guy who I respect a lot, Bill Harris, who's a great writer, and he talked about the idea that blues are the product of a people who were denied their written literature, and so the blues became their musical literature.
All right.
And so the idea of the simplicity of the instrument, the sort of the forthrightness of it, I think gives it a power that's just pretty amazing. So my idea is not just to go along and play a specific tune, but to give folks principles that you can apply to anything you're trying to play. Right.
Yeah. I like the idea of it as you described it as a voice, because it does have its own voice in the whole range of different instruments. And it, like you said, it doesn't overpower, it blends in with the other voices in a group
Yeah.
and makes it a group effort. That's awesome. The and then you're teaching, you've been a harmonica player for, I don't know, for all your life.
Ever.
I don't know.
Right. It was really my first instrument
Okay.
because I grew up, my grandmother brought home this recording. I'm maybe 10 or 11 years old, which was a long time ago. And it was
You and me
Sonny
both,
Terry
buddy.
and there you go, right? It was Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee. And so immediately, if you've got a choice between trying to go to a pawn shop and finding a decent guitar or going down to Grinnell Brothers and getting a harmonica, which one is the most
Yep.
accessible, right?
Yep.
And so I really fell in love with the sound of especially Sonny Terry, a guy who could play harmonica unaccompanied, had things like fox chases, hoops, barks, falsetto singing, and all of that stuff is just like to me, he is still my favorite harmonica player.
Yeah.
And when you come from the tradition of like country harmonica, not necessarily played through a mic, not necessarily fronting a band, but the idea of just taking this thing in with your hands and your throat, making the harmonica do what it does, is just I love it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm really excited about this year's camp because it's always, it's Midwest Uke and Harmonica Camp. And we've had two awesome teachers ever since we started camp, Sandy Weltman and Andy Wilson. And I know you certainly know Andy.
Yep.
Um, and now we're going to add you to the harmonica teaching artist roster, as well as Michael August, who's quite a great musician out of Wisconsin.
Mm,
So it's been interesting for us to watch the harmonica part of camp expand to where we're having some people come not just to, well, I'd like to learn harmonica to go along with my ukulele, but they're coming just for the harmonica.
yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. We're glad to have you aboard for that.
Well, I'm glad to be on board. It's strange how life works. That I was teaching at Uke Fest with Marcy Markser and Sally, and I was in a class, or I was teaching a class where there was a guy who knew about you. And he was like, "So they got this really great camp that happens in Toledo." Well, dude, I'm right up the road in Detroit.
That's right.
So, I had to go to like literally Massachusetts to to
Yeah, for Strathmore, or yeah, one of
yeah,
those.
yeah,
Yeah.
to discover
Well, yeah.
what you guys were doing. That's great.
Well, it finally it's funny because like I said, I mean, living here in Lansing for so long, certainly known, you coming into the 10-pound fiddle and all the other things you've done here around the state, but now to finally get you to our camp and work with you, I think this is going to be a real special camp. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, so am I. I mean, and I love the work that you do. Since I now met you, I read up on you a little bit. I love the idea of making this instrument accessible and available to young audiences. And, you know, I got to tell you, I'm of a generation where people now ask me what my favorite music is. And it's kind of like real music played by real musicians on real instruments.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, to get kids to do this versus doing this,
Sure.
it's pretty
Sure.
important.
Sure. Well, and that's, the separate part of the work I do with music is the foundation. What's been great with the ukulele is it's so accessible to 8-year-olds and 88-year-olds and everywhere in between. So it's the most folk instruments because all folks can play it and it brings all the folks together, which we need more than ever nowadays. So
Without a
uh,
doubt.
that's for sure. Well, we're looking forward to having you at camp. That's July 11th through 13th at the University of Toledo. You can sign up, find out more, and sign up at www.midwestukehamp.com.
There you go.
All
You
right.
do it. All
We'll
right.
see you in
Thanks, man.
Toledo, man. All
All right,
right.
brother.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye bye.